guys, welcome to She Knows Arsenal. My name is Jessica and I'm your host, and you can follow me on Twitter at @it'sJacinho. Thank you guys for being here. I see there's about 30 of you guys already watching. That's awesome. Make sure you get into the chat box. Let me know how you're feeling, where you're watching in from. Again, if this is your first time here, let me know where you're watching in from and just say hello and all those types of things. I'm so grateful that you guys are just still here with me. It's so awesome. And I'm about 60 subscribers away from 1,500. So if you guys don't mind, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share with your friends. And let's go ahead and get started. So on today's show, what I want to talk about is the outgoings. It seems like, at the moment that we're getting our outgoings going, and that's a good thing. This window is really contingent on, like, the success of it is contingent on the outgoings, not only from a financial standpoint of being able to recoup fees for certain players and reinvest that, but to open up space in the squad. You know what I mean? So I think it's really important that we're seeing that players are actually being linked with solidified moves away from the club, and it looks like things are going in the right direction. I remember last window where it just kind of felt like we were trying desperately to get rid of players and nobody really wanted them. And it looks a little bit different this time around, whereas players like Granit Xhaka and Hector Bellerin and Matteo Guendouzi are linked with serious moves away from the club. And for me, that's a good step in the right direction because, again, it's not just about fees. It's about opening up space in the squad. And right back in central midfield in particular can be really transformative positions if we can get different profiles in those positions. So what we're basically looking for right now is a starting right back and a starting central midfielder. And that's really exciting to me. So let me see what you guys are saying in the chat box. Newman said the girl's late. I was like 3 minutes late. Usab said hit the likes while you wait. Okay, you guys, I'm sorry I made you guys wait. Marissa says, hey, Jess. Hey, Marissa, how are you? Usab says, hey, Jess. Hey, how are you? Bowie the cat says, good afternoon, Jess. Hope you are well. I'm doing very well. If you guys were here yesterday, you guys know that yesterday was a little weird. I definitely spilled coffee on myself. I have my coffee here, and I'm going to make sure that that doesn't happen today. But other than that, I'm feeling really good. And thank you guys for being here. Matthew says, hola, lurking and working. Awesome. Eddie says, hello. Hey, Eddie. Bulgarian says, what is up? Just here, living the dream, talking Arsenal transfers, Newman says, I'm a stickler for timekeeping. Look, literally, I'm such an on-time person, but I think I'm having a little bit of an issue trying to get shows together right before I'm supposed to come on. So I'm going to get my time together, but I totally understand, and I will fix that. I promise. It was really coffee. I promise. I was not drinking early in the morning. Rutger says, hi, Jess. First time replying from strangely sunny Holland. So you guys are having some good weather. I know in England, there's some good weather as well. So I hope you guys are getting out there and enjoying it. Don't let the Arsenal transfer rumors ruin your summer. Have a good time. King Coon says, hi, Jess, making lunch right now. Well, what are you making? Let me know. All right, so let's just get started. I want to talk about Granit Xhaka first. Before we get to live Q&A, after we just kind of generally talk about the outgoings, we'll do live Q&A. And so hold your questions to the end. But yesterday, Chris Wheatley reported that Granit Xhaka is edging closer to signing for Roma. And then this morning, it seemed like now they're trying to get the deal done before the weekend. Granit Xhaka is on the brink of leaving Arsenal to join Roma, roughly 20 million after performance-related add-ons. And so I know that there was a lot of maybe disappointment in terms of the price that we were willing to let Granit Xhaka go for. It's just funny to me how a fan base can feel like a player is so bad, but then when it comes to selling said player, they want to get so much for them. If you check his transfer market value, I think it's about 22 million or something like that. With the age of Granit Xhaka being almost 30, I think he turns 29, and with the length of contract of only having 2 years left on his deal, I think you'd be lucky to get more than 25 million for Granit Xhaka from a European club. And we all know that English clubs are probably not going to be interested in him, but the clubs that would be clubs in like Italy or maybe Spain or the French league or even in Germany. And these clubs don't have that much money. I think we know it's been said for a while that Roma's broke. Like they don't have a lot of money. So for me, I think this is the best case scenario. Last summer, it kind of felt like maybe we were holding out for maybe more. So, and then what ended up happening is we weren't able to shift anybody on. So I think I can be okay with the club maybe going not with them for being okay with not getting maybe as much as they would want for the players so that we can just go ahead and shift them on and move on. And the fact that we're not being like overly aggressive with the amount of money that we want to get for our players, to me, maybe signifies the fact that we don't need to sell as high as possible to bring players in. So I'm just trying to think of an alternative reason or just an alternative viewpoint on the price of the players that we are selling, them for, because for me, I don't view Granit Xhaka as a 30 million, $35 million midfielder at this point in time. And so 20 million was about what I had in my mind about like the top that we would get for him. So I'm happy that we're getting close to that with performance related add-ons and things like that. I think it's interesting to see how quickly Jose Mourinho jumped on the Granit Xhaka, like to get him to Roma when he got there. I'm not going to go into like, oh well, I think that means that Granit Xhaka is such a great midfielder because Jose Mourinho wants him. Like it is what it is. I'm just Granit Xhaka is not my ideal profile of a midfielder, so I tend to just kind of think like he's just not the right guy. I never thought he was, but I never thought he was as bad as everybody made him out to seem. And he's has a good mentality to a certain extent. Like he works hard, he never hides, but sometimes he would just get over. He would see red and then just make really dumb decisions. He's not the only player to do that. He just did it in such high profile matches and there was already like a light on him. So it just made it so much worse. But I think this is the best for all parties. Like I know that we will be short in midfield, so we'll have to, figure out a way to replenish the midfield if we're losing Ceballos and Guendouzi and Granit Xhaka. But at the same time, it's just the right time to move this player on. I think it's just best for everybody. And so I wish him the best of luck. I hope that he does well where, at Roma and we move. Let's see. Karan says Italy will show Granit Xhaka's best qualities. Yeah, he's suited to another league, and I can see the value of Granit, even though I think his limitations they limit us because we need him to be on the ball so much because he dictates play, as Bulgarian Gunnar says. So you know what I mean? It's kind of like that. He's good, but I think we need a different profile, to evolve the midfield. And that's why when we see the links to Ruben Neves, I'm thinking that maybe Arteta's not looking to evolve the midfield. If it's true that they want Ruben Neves versus somebody like a Basuma, then Arteta may like the look of the midfield that we have now and just wants it to be a better version of what we already have instead of an evolved version that we've never seen before. And that's something that we'll learn when the transfer window is over. Colin says, sorry, never wanted him. I didn't either. During that time, I think when he came in, I was a flight attendant, so I wasn't able to keep up with the transfer rumors as much as I am now. And I saw the announcement and then I went and looked to see what kind of player this is. And I just thought, all wrong. This is not it. This is not what we should be going for. And I just hope that we had a plan and we really didn't. And I've kind of always felt like it took until Thomas Partey coming in this year for us to see Granit Xhaka in his best light. And so I view Granit as not a bad person or a bad player or anybody that we should be going out of our way to abuse, which I hate that. I think it's a squad building issue and it always has been. It's about profiles, bringing in players that don't fit, overspending on players that we're not going to get the most out of. We're not going to do our best to get a return on investment in these players. If all it took was you to bring in a box-to-box midfielder for us to be able to see what Granit Xhaka can do. And that's the club's issue. The club really, really bottled this in terms of squad building. And now Thomas Partey comes in, and it's now you can just see what Granit Xhaka is all about. Now that may not be the level or the type of midfield that we want, or we still don't think it's good enough, but it shouldn't take 5 years for us to get the right people around him. It's been 4 transfer windows since he's been here, and you never thought to get him a player like Zachariah, like Jabril Sow, players that he's played with in the past and played well with. Like, that's just so poor from Arsenal. And 35 million is a lot, but it was a lot 5 years ago. We all know that inflation, since the Neymar deal and stuff has really skewed prices and stuff like that. But 35 million, that's nothing to laugh at. So for us to bring him in and then put him in a position to be exposed, expect him to do well, and then wait 5 years to do the right thing, it's just silly season from Arsenal for me. So yeah, it's time for him to go, but I hope that we learn our lesson. And when you spend a lot on players, you have to know what you're going to do with them, and make sure that you build the team around them so that they can thrive. It just feels so stupid. Declan says, big summer for Arsenal. I wouldn't panic yet. No reason to panic just yet. Colin said, Laka and the kids, all the rest can go. Our history was decorated with successful teams sprinkled with youth academy, not expensive PS5 player signings. Caribbean dude said, who is the best available player for our midfield? Yves Bissouma. I mean, we're all calling for it. And I know that, you may get tired of hearing it, but it just, and honestly, it's like, I don't know what's best suited for Arsenal. Like, I have my own ideas about what I would like an Arsenal midfield to look like. And a lot of it is based on what I know from back in the day. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the midfield that I always loved was Vieira and Gilberto. And, Bergkamp was like a pseudo 10 in that, I like that, so when I see Bissouma as Gilberto, and I see Thomas as Vieira. So that's what I'm going after. And then other people can say, like, well, the midfield that I liked was the more technical midfield, the more Barcelona-esque midfield that we had over the years post Vieira and Gilberto. So maybe we're looking for that. So I don't really know. I think you can be successful with different types of midfields. We've seen Manchester City's midfield is successful versus Liverpool. They're completely different. So for me, I would think Yves Bissouma is the best fit because he's available. It seems like he may want to come to Arsenal, and he's a really good player. And I think he has a lot more to offer than what he's showing at Brighton. But other people may feel like Ruben Neves is the right fit because maybe he's just a little bit different profile. Maybe he has more to offer going forward. Just depends on you, Bulgarian says, I wasn't expecting him to be so error prone. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know where that comes from. Like, I really don't know, because every player makes mistakes, but it just seemed like Granit Xhaka was always so exposed. And I think the fact that we never surrounded him, like, he literally became less error prone once we surrounded him with the right players and stopped making him be the person to dictate our midfield. When Thomas took the reins and would do more in the midfield, it seemed like it would take the stress off of Granit, and then he wasn't under so much pressure. So I just think it all goes with, like, even David Luiz, I think he was more error prone at Arsenal because he was under so much pressure and he didn't have that solidity around him that he had at Chelsea. Like, I think they played like a back three as well. Like, it's just different, and then David looked better when we went to a back three. Like, I just think we don't set our players up to be successful. So if you're error prone, we will always put you in a position for those errors to come about. And I think that that's an Arsenal issue for sure. Yo-Yo says Xhaka is Arteta. Arteta is Xhaka. Poor man's Xabi Alonso. Not nice. That's not nice. Fidel says Neves Partey Awa is the way, in my opinion. It's funny that you say that, because I was thinking yesterday that feels like the direction that we would be going in. Personally, if we get Neves, I cannot see us going to get Basuma. So if you get Neves, then who's the other midfielder? And maybe it's somebody like Awa. There are reports coming out that Awa's not our first choice, and Awa's not our first choice, like, or whatever, like Awa doesn't see us as a first choice and we don't see him as a first choice. So it'll be interesting to find out who this mystery person is that's our number one choice in that type of position. But maybe that's the balance of midfield that Arteta's looking for. Because if we get Neves, I can't see us getting Basuma. I just can't. But with Kat says, I just hope Arsenal stop dragging their heels, penny pinching, and getting business done soon. I mean, the amount of outgoings that kind of seem like that they're getting out or that they're working on would suggest that we're going to try to do something early. So, yep. All right. So somebody else that's being linked with a move away is Hector Bellerin. We already knew that you could kind of tell towards the end of the season that he was maybe looking for a way out, or the club had already kind of decided that they were going to move him on. He wasn't playing a lot of games. It was really weird. He went from definite starter to like bit part player like that. And so he's somebody else that looks like he's on the way out. He's linked with so many different clubs, but it seems like the majority of the proposals or the clubs that are interested in him are from La Liga, which makes a lot of sense. I think he would fit in well in that league. Sevilla has said to be made an offer or is interested. Villarreal seemingly maybe wants Bellerin, and then we have Atletico Madrid that wants to do something with Kieran Trippier, maybe sell him to Manchester United, and then they bring in Hector Bellerin, and then we're seeing Juventus being interested in some weird swap deal with Aaron Ramsey. So Bellerin looks like he's on his way out, and I think this is a really good opportunity for us to bring in the right profile of right back. Our lopsidedness really, I think, has so much to do with the fact that Tierney's so good and our right back is just not really the right profile. And I think Arteta wants that inverted right back, more like Kyle Walker-ish, type of Cancelo-ish, not really the overlapping right back, which is fine. Like, it doesn't bother me that the right back doesn't necessarily overlap. I just think if we're going to play that way, it has to be the player, it has to make sense. So I think this is a really good opportunity. I hope that we don't do something weird, like a weird swap deal or something like that. Let's just get the money and move forward and get the right person in that position. So we've been linked with like Mazraoui, we've been linked with Selic. I'm not sure how concrete or reliable those links are, but we have been, and Max Aaron. So all of those options seem really good to me. It just is a matter of how much we get for Hector Bellerin. And I think with comparable right back options across Europe, it's going to be difficult for us to ask for top dollar for Hector because it's all about supply and demand. When you have Max Aaron's available, maybe like Hakimi type players available, Riddle Baku, Mazraoui, Selic, there's so many different right backs available that are good. It drops the price down. So I think at one point we wanted like 35 million for Hector Bellerin. Now we may only get 20 or something like that to move him on. And then, so how do we replace him with somebody better with 20 million or something like that? So I think it's going to be interesting. But what do you guys think about Hector Bellerin leaving the club? Like I was saying on Twitter earlier that I just kind of feel like, Arsenal fans have really targeted Granit Xhaka and Hector Bellerin over the years. So it'll be interesting to see how the fans react, because let's not shift our anger to other players and do the same things. You cannot like a player and not like batter them online or in social media like daily. Like we need to change. Like we can't be this way, like as a fan base in general. So it's going to be interesting to see how we react. But what do you guys think about Hector Bellerin leaving, and what like profile of right back would you want? Do you want more of a Tierney on the right side, or do you think it would be interesting to have somebody that plays more like a midfielder? And that will lead us into our conversation about Maitland-Niles in just a second, but I just want to kind of see what you guys are saying. Bellerin is in total decline. He needs to go. He never really recovered from the injury. And without his pace, he's such a different player. And so it's definitely time. Billy says Bellerin scapegoated so many times. He's one of the better players before he got the ACL. Live on Social Now Production says, I will miss him dearly. Don Giovanni says, it's great news. We're getting rid of limited players and glaring flaws, and most of our targets are much more complete. That's a really, really good point, that the players that are supposedly leaving have their limits create ceilings for us. And so it is good that maybe we're looking at more well-rounded players that can do different things so that we can up our ceiling and become a better team. Calvin says, give Bellerin the 20 million if he performs, job done. Okay. Bulgarian says Bellerin's time has come. Time for a change. Garang says Selleck or Majraoui will be the best replacement. Just based on those two being linked with us, I'm not sure if it's reliable, but the profile of player is very much in that mold of the inverted right back. And I know some people really want that Lamptey type, but I personally like the inverted because then it's kind of like it's difficult because I don't want to get like too tactical, but I like when that person plays like a midfielder and you have that extra and then you can just push more people forward. And because Tierney is so overlapping and he basically plays like a winger, I think our right back should play more like a right midfielder. Personally, I like that, but others don't, and I get that, but I think it's the right thing. Bulgarian, you know what that means? Welcome to Arsenal, Jorginho. I didn't see that earlier. I actually rate Jorginho. I think he's a good player. I think people don't like him, but I think he's actually a good player. I wouldn't take him at Arsenal, but I actually think he's a good player. I don't know why people hate him so much. Billy says Majraoui is so injury prone. Okay, so that's something to take note of, is that if he's not available or he can't be available, then maybe that's not somebody we want. JC says, I don't think we've had any concrete tier 1 sources confirm right backs yet. Yeah, for sure. Like that's something to take notice of as well, is that there's nothing concrete. You know, we know more about our midfield targets than the right back. So maybe there's something in the works that we're not privy to. Rutger says about Bellerin, he has true Arsenal DNA, in which sense, in the sense which, in my opinion, comes down to class off the field. Flowers for Hillsborough disaster, the clothing style progressive options. Yeah. Bellerin, one thing that I don't like is I don't like how we wrap Bellerin up or we paint him with this weird brush based on how he is off the pitch. I don't think that's good, you guys. I really don't. I know we like our Tierneys where it seems like ball or nothing, like, you know, but Bellerin has other, you know, other interests, and that doesn't really bother me. You know, I just think he lost pace, so he lost me, so he needs to go. But if he likes to plant trees, walk in fashion shows, whatever, that's up to him, you know. And I think we spend too much time talking about what he does off the field. I don't know what that's all about, talking about his diet. I hate to tell, like, there's a lot of vegan athletes that perform really well. So I don't know why the veganism thing is such a big deal. You know, I think Bellerin's been really classy. He's been our captain in a lot of instances, like when Jordan Henderson was calling those meetings for the captains. Aubameyang didn't go to those. Bellerin went. He's our representative. So, you know, I think I like Hector Bellerin. I just think it's time for him to go. You know, I just don't like how we talk about his personal life outside of off of the pitch and make that a reason why we don't like Hector. just talk about what he does on the pitch. Don't talk about what he does off of it. Yo-Yo says the personal attacks are due to jealousy. Hecky B and Abba have suffered for this. It's an interesting point. Garang says never Selic, Odegaard loan, or Neves, Selic, Odegaard loan, Duig, Onana. This is our target for the summer. I think if Neves coming, then Basuma's not going to come. It's Neves or Basuma. Yeah, I believe that as well, that it's Neves or Basuma. Hector has been out excellent for us. He's struggled to get back to his best since his injury. He's got into things no sportsman should, and it affected his big game. Exactly. So now, speaking about Bellerin and the fact that so the Bellerin news comes out today, and then Maitland-Niles news comes out as well. And I think it's almost like we're working through things. It's like we want to get rid of Guendouzi because we already know that Guendouzi's pretty much off. He'll probably end up at Marseille for probably like 10 million. I know that's not what we want, but hey. So, and then Granit Xhaka and Bellerin, who are two players that I think Arteta convinced to stay for another year. So it's only right that they're the first ones on the list to get moves, in my opinion. So, and they're foreign players, or not Hector, but Guendouzi and Xhaka are more foreign players. So you want to open up those foreign spots, right? So then now the Maitland-Niles stuff is coming up. And I think the way that these are kind of like the way the dominoes are kind of falling, it looks like we're going to go from the players that need to go, foreign players, and then we're going to start working on the English players, right? So Maitland-Niles is first up. He had an interview talking about Arsenal and how he wants some clarity on what his position would be, how he would be used. And basically, if he doesn't get the right answer or he's not satisfied, he'll kiss Arsenal goodbye and leave. It's such a complex situation that I can't really say like Maitland-Niles is at fault, Arteta's at fault, whatever. Because when Arteta first came in, Maitland-Niles was playing that inverted right back role, and he did so well. And I know that a lot of people are like, or some people don't think he did a good job, but for me, I think he could have grown into that. At 22, 23 years old, you can still become better. I don't think his technical ability would improve, but his positioning and his knowledge and comfort in that position would have grown if he would have accepted it. I don't think he ever accepted that position, but he would have been perfect for that. What we're talking about right now with Selig and Mazraoui playing that inverted type of right back that almost plays like a midfielder, he would be so good at it. So knowing that he's kind of like the exact thing that we need, but he doesn't want to play that position is a little rough. But I go back to that interview that Sam Allardyce did when Maitland-Niles was leaving West Brom, and he essentially said that Arsenal have a lot of good midfield options. And basically, if he was Maitland-Niles, he would go back to Arsenal and play whatever position we wanted him to. There's so many cues. Like sometimes when the world is speaking to you, you have to listen. Like I don't think Maitland-Niles is a midfielder, and I don't think there's ever been a cue or any sense that he is. Like everybody thinks you're a right back or some sort of wing backy type of player. You're not suited to playing centrally within the midfield. But he believes in himself so much that he wants to play midfield. And it's so hard to watch because I personally didn't think he looked great as a midfielder for West Brom. So he played hard, but it just isn't enough. Like, you know what I mean? He didn't really stand out. Like, you know how Willock really stood out for Newcastle? I don't think Maitland-Niles really did that. I don't think he really made a case to play midfield, but that's what he really wants. So I don't know. I don't think he's going to get the answer that he wants. I think Arteta is, once he's set on something, it's kind of what it is. Like, if you're not ready, you're not ready. If you're not a midfielder, you're not a midfielder, and just move on. So I anticipate Maitland-Niles being sold, but I think it's complicated by the fact that the clubs that are going to want him for a midfield position are going to be clubs that are lower down the table, or clubs in the championship. So that essentially means that we'll get less, right? Teams that would want him as a wing back, a utility player, a right back, I think he could, like Leicester was interested in him, Southampton, Wolves. There were teams that were interested in him in the Premier League for that position. So we would get more. So I think based on what he wants to do and the fact that he's very inflexible when it comes to wanting to play certain positions, I feel like we won't get as much as we maybe want from Maitland-Niles, but I think he'll go. It's just so like, oh my gosh, sorry you guys, this phone is always ringing. But it's just such a weird situation for me with Maitland-Niles. So what do you guys think about Maitland-Niles? Like, do you think, because I've always seen like almost like this is Arteta's fault, he did this, but I can't really pinpoint Arteta doing anything wrong, because when Arteta first came in, that's where he played Maitland-Niles. Then when Bellerin came back, it was like Bellerin coming back and Cedric coming in was very intertwined with the time where Maitland-Niles was maybe being vocal or maybe physically showing that he doesn't want to play that position. It was already kind of said that like he didn't have the best body language in practice and things like that. So I can't see how people are blaming this on Arteta, but I also don't blame Maitland-Niles for rating himself in a position and believing in himself. Whether that hurts his career in the long run, that's on him. But if you believe you're something and you're willing to risk not playing for Arsenal to go chase that, then I can't really blame you for that either. Let's see. Yo-Yo says Ainsley Maitland-Niles may have been let down by his inner circle. I've definitely heard this before. Like if you look at the way Willock has handled maybe not being a part of Arteta's plans long term, or maybe having an inconclusive answer to where he fits in. He went on loan, he did a good job, and now look, it's just different the way that he's handled it. I think it's because of his family and his dad's influence, and he has such a tight-knit circle of a family that really like tries to lead him in the right direction. Whereas Maitland-Niles, I think we all know, doesn't really have that. He just doesn't have that circle, you know what I mean? So maybe there's people that are telling him like, you don't need to settle for Arsenal, you can play midfield somewhere else. I don't think he's the same as Saka, and Emil Smith-Rowe that are like, I love Arsenal, I want to be an Arsenal legend, I want to do this and that. I think Maitland-Niles may feel like he kind of gives off, I think I'm not above Arsenal, but I don't have to settle for this, and that's fine. But I have a hard time envisioning him at a better club, a bigger club than Arsenal in the midfield, to be honest. MTR says Ainsley has always been disappointed in the midfield. Yeah, he hasn't really ever shown. And like as a youth, yeah, like you can play midfield, but when he gets into bigger games, it just never really came off. You know what I mean? Yo-Yo says publicly speaking like this will have lowered his price too. But I think when players are looking for moves, I've noticed that they're more vocal. Players that have wanted to leave Arsenal are vocal. They start talking out into it's very like a new thing, like where I'm going to go out and kind of speak, not really negatively, but if you read between the lines of some of the things and like you're looking for something, you'll find a little clip or something that'll make Arsenal look bad. And so I think Maitland-Niles obviously wants to leave Arsenal. That's pretty clear, but it does lower his price. And it's just, yeah. What I would like is for this to be handled as quickly as possible so we don't get a Maitland-Niles transfer saga with him going to the public and the media so many times and speaking ill of Arsenal. He already said nobody's contacted him. Edu and Arteta, he hasn't heard anything from them, and there's no clarity and all that kind of stuff. Where you read between the lines of that, you start to see a picture that doesn't really shine nicely on Arsenal. So let's get this done quickly. Rutger says if only Maitland-Niles had the same amount of self-reflection as he has self-belief. Tragic case of shouting whilst he should have listened. That's a good point. MS says someone close to AMN has to tell him this. Maybe there are too many yes men around him gassing him up when in reality he's not good enough to play there. I mean, experts, literal experts, not just Arteta, like literally not just Arteta. We're talking about even clubs that are interested in you in a position that you don't want to play. Sam Allardyce, been around for a long time, literally telling you to go back to Arsenal and just play right back. Like, it's so clear, but he doesn't see it. It's crazy. Bulgarian says, ultimately, I can't see AMM being a starter for Arsenal week in and week out. We should sell. Akindele says, Ainsley Maitland-Niles can be a good CM, just needs to get game time in that position. He's only the thing is that maybe he can be, maybe in a couple of years we look and we're like, wow, he's actually doing well in midfield. But I think the only teams that will risk him in that position and will spend money for him to play in that position are teams lower down in the Premier League and in the Championship. And from an Arsenal perspective, that's not good for us because we're not going to get as much as we maybe should get for him. But it's all up to him. If he wants to play midfield, he's going to have to fight for it. But I think he'll have to start kind of low and then work his way back up. Let's see. Abdallah says, Ainsley Maitland-Niles is a good player, but he's massively overrated. I don't get why people think he's supposed to be the best right back since Sanya for Arsenal or even the best CM since Alex Song. Who's saying that, Abdallah? Who's saying that people think he's that? Nobody thinks he's that. But I do think that he could do a job at right back for us because he did in the past. Like, he's a very good one-on-one defender. I think his defensive awareness sometimes can be a little bad, his decision-making. But those are things that you can improve on. And if you really want to do something, you'll improve at it. And I think his inability to improve over that short time that he played that position was more due to not his ability, but the fact that he didn't want to do it. We all know that when we don't want to do things, we just don't put as much effort into it, but when you're playing in the position that you want to, or you're doing something you want to do, you're eager to learn. You want to get to the next step. It's just that simple. Marissa says, I'm not excited for AMN at Arsenal. Is it just me? I don't think so. I think it's mixed. I think some people are like, would take him back and give him another chance. And then a lot of people are just kind of done with him. I'm kind of like, I just want Arsenal to make a decision quickly and just move on from it, because we don't want this to become a saga of sorts. We just kind of want to make the decision and move forward. And I think he wants to leave personally. George's opinion, he's almost 24 already. That's a really good point. Like, once you get to like 24, 25, let's make decisions, but wanting to still play midfield at 24 years old is problematic, because at some point you need to solidify your position, right? Like, you need to know where you're going to play. Like, I think Xhaka will know definitively what his position is next season at 20 years old. We're talking about Maitland-Niles 24 years old. We don't know where he plays. And there's some players that are like elite utility players, like Milner. Like, he can play so many different positions, but he can do it at a pretty high level. I don't think Ainsley even has the mind to do that. Like, he so wants to play midfield, And Ivy says, sell all unhappy players. That's also a point too, is that we don't want anybody who doesn't want to be here at Arsenal. So just move them on. Gunnar Vittel says, Robbie, that has close contacts with people in Ainsley's camp, said something that Ainsley never really was bothered by playing right back, but midfield was his preferred option. I don't know. I don't think it looked good on him for reports to come out that he was agitating because he didn't want to play didn't want to play right back. So that hurts him and makes him look a certain type of way. So whether it happened or not, I don't really know, because I'm not there, but either way, we know he wants to play midfield and we see him as a fullback. And that's really just kind of like the end all be all, really. Talk to you later, Marissa. Have fun at Pilates class. But yeah, so I think we all kind of like are in agreement where it's kind of like, I'm seeing mostly just move him on. I haven't really seen anybody say really just keep him or anything like that. I think it's time to just go and move on. Aaron says, I think he needs to move on, but in my opinion would be a good squad player in the midfield. Yeah, at 24 years old, though, unless you are just like a lot of midfielders or a lot of younger players are just not going to be interested in being squad players for Arsenal. You know what I mean? Especially if they really rate themselves. Like, you know what I mean? And it feels like Maitland-Niles really rates himself. So whatever happens is whatever happens. But there's about 91 of you guys watching right now. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Again, I said at the beginning that I'm about 60 subscribers away from 1,500, and I'd love to get there maybe by the middle of the month or something. We'll see. But just share this with a friend, you know, whatever. Just let them know that maybe you're enjoying the video. That'd be awesome. And let's start getting your questions in for Q&A. We can do about 15 minutes of that. And yeah. So go ahead and start putting your questions in. Make sure it's obvious that it's a question. Put a Q in front of it or something, or like, hey, Jessica, it's a question, so I don't miss out on it. And later on today, I'll be doing the headline show. I'm sure more headlines will be coming out. And then, of course, we'll have our special question at the end. It'll be just me. And again, depending on how many people are here, it'll be a call-in show too. I like to wait to see if I have a lot of people or a good enough amount of people because I don't know. I don't want to put the link out and then like nobody shows up. It's like, hey guys, could somebody come up here and talk to me? So it'll be a call-in show. I'll put the link out there if there's people that actually want to come up. But yeah, go ahead and put in your questions, you guys. So, yep. Colin asks, how do you feel about Saliba getting a chance, Jess? I mean, it's so weird because I've never been more hyped about a player than William Saliba. Like, I was so excited for him to come in, and he went on loan, and then he went on loan again. And I've yet to see him in an Arsenal shirt except for one time against MK Dons in preseason. And so I want him to get a chance because I really think he's a good player. And I just can't imagine why you wouldn't want to bring him in and let him play for Arsenal. I hope he gets a really fair shot and we get to see him in preseason. I am going to go to the games in Orlando, so I'm hoping that he's there and I can watch him play with my own eyes. I've never been more hyped and more anxious about a player ever because I'm just so afraid that we won't see him. Like, you know, so I'm hoping that he gets a chance. I think he's good enough to play for Arsenal. I'm not sure if he should start right away, but I would love to see him in an Arsenal shirt next season for sure. Let's see. Abdallah asks, do you reckon there's a way for Reiss Nelson to get into this current Arsenal team? Also, do you prefer... I don't even know what those two... I don't know who Hetty One or AJ Tracy is. Is that... Are those like artists or something? You guys, I don't know who that is. I'm sorry. My bad. So do you reckon a way for Reiss Nelson to get into this current Arsenal team? Go on loan. Go on loan. I mean, that's the key, right? They asked you to go on loan. So here's my thing. If you really want to play for Arsenal, which there's a really big chance that, for me, that Nelson really wants to play for Arsenal Football Club. You know, I think some people were saying that he just wants to stay at Arsenal because he's lazy. I want to think that he wants to really stay at Arsenal, and that's why he doesn't want to go out on loan. He wants to try to fight for his place, but it's not working. If the club says that in order for you to play for Arsenal Football Club, you need to get loaned out, then you need to go out on loan. So if he wants to get into this current Arsenal team, he needs to go on loan. But if Willian leaves, why couldn't he just take that spot? You know, there's a chance for me that maybe he could just stay. If Willian leaves, he could just easily take that spot. I mean, Willian, what? You know, he's not good. So yeah, I think either go out on loan and do a Willock and come back, or maybe Willian goes and you just step into his spot. And then when you get into the Carabao Cup games, when you get into those FA Cup games, you need end product. Like, he needs to score goals. He needs to get assists. We talked about this yesterday, Abdallah, that those positions, those forward positions, for me, it's all about assists and goals to a certain extent, because those are high priority positions. Like, you have to be giving some sort of end product. in most cases, especially when you're like a team like Arsenal that doesn't score a lot of goals. The people out there have to give something. So I think that's all he's really missed, is the fact that sometimes he doesn't keep it simple. I think sometimes he over dribbles and all that kind of stuff, but mostly it's when he gets in front of the goal, he doesn't kick it in the back of the net. And so if he could do those things, I think he could still be good for us. But personally, I think he needs to go out on loan because I think he would really I think he needs more than 4 or 5 starts. I think he needs a full season away from Arsenal without the pressure. Yes, Jamie Carragher, Smith Rowe is getting a new contract. I'm super excited about that. I love Smith Rowe. I just need him to get in the gym. I just think he needs to buck up a little bit, but I love that kid. I think he's so good and I'm glad. One thing I can say, and I know that it's we're 8th, so we can't say anything, about the club doing good things. We're 8th. The way that we've been handling the younger kids and getting them on new contracts and doing it quickly and sending people out on loans, we see Ballard is going to go on the loan to the championship. I think he did one in League One this season, and now he's going to do one next season in the championship. I can feel they're straightening up the academy and they're handling the younger players a lot better. And so those are good signs for the future. I know we're 8th, I know, but those are good signs for the future. Jack Copping says, the Saliba situation is an odd one. Not even a chance given to him before going out on loan, not even Europa League, meaningless games. I mean, the rumor is that they missed the opportunity to send him out on loan in the beginning. And then things just kind of fell apart from there. I don't really know. I don't think there's a lot of clarity around the situation. I just think from here on out, Saliba needs to be handled correctly because I feel like one more suspect situation and we're going to lose him. Yo-Yo asks, AMN, Willian, Willick, Laka, ESR, Saka, Martinelli, Abba, Xhaka, Tierney have all played multiple positions under Arteta. Is this a sign that he lacks direction or the squad is just simply poor? Well, let's see. I think it's more that he's not able to get the skill set that he wants in the positions that he has. So he is trying to solve problems and fix gaps by putting players in positions that aren't really their own. Sometimes it's worked. Other times it hasn't. I think Ainsley Maitland-Niles as an inverted right back was successful. Willian as a 10 or a false 9 was a total failure. Willick, I just think that he doesn't fit the profile in terms of what we need in those midfield positions. Lacazette as a 10 has been a fail, but Lacazette as more of that false 9 that drops in and is a part of buildup has been successful. ESR is good enough to play in multiple positions. So is Saka. I think they're both successful in multiple positions, which I think also speaks to the type of players that we need to be bringing in long term. They need to be more like ESR and Saka and less like Aubameyang and Xhaka, these players that limit us because they don't have a lot of well-roundedness to their game. Martinelli, I think he's only been really played in 2 positions. That's been fine. I think Aubameyang, he's been played in multiple positions because he's not really the ideal choice for either, but he's our guy, so we're trying to fit him in. So I think that's more of just not having the right profile. I think that's really just more what it is. And I think Arteta is clear about what he wants to do. He just doesn't have the players. So because he doesn't, he's trying to find solutions. And those solutions sometimes leave us dumbfounded because they're not working. So I think it's the squad is not what he needs, Let's see. Colin, subscribe. Thank you for subscribing. I really appreciate it. Football Fan Talk says Philippe Coutinho would be great on a loan deal. I mean, isn't he injured and had a huge surgery or something? Look, no more Kia clients. No more Kia clients. I mean, I love Coutinho. I think he's such a good player. And I would have taken him last summer when we chose to get Willian instead of Coutinho. I would have got him then. But now that he's had this big injury and he's been basically out of the squad for Barcelona for so long, I wouldn't take him now. I wouldn't. Akindele asks, what do we do with the likes of Aziz since we have no extra games in Europe? Well, if you think about it, without Xhaka, Guendouzi, and Ceballos, and potentially Willock, I think he will get playing time because we'll need less midfielders, but we can still add him in. So if we were to get Ruben Neves, let's say, and we have Thomas Partey and Elneny, in that base of the midfield, you would still need an additional person, So let's say Elneny and Thomas are gone for AFCON, then you have Ruben Neves and Aziz. So I think he will get playing time because we just won't have enough people. And yeah, I think he will get playing time. I think the European games will hurt more like Balogun if Lacazette doesn't go, because we have so many players. We have like no midfielders. So I still think he'll get some meaningful minutes if he stays, even without Europe, if that makes sense. Question, Phil Foden's hair, discuss. I never really liked the little bang. I never really loved that. I like Foden, but I never liked that. And like now that it's silver, it's not my favorite. It's not my favorite. Love the kid, not the hairstyle. Jimmy Carragher, do you think Bukayo Saka should start for England? No, not necessarily. I think the way that Jack Grealish is playing, I think that he should start. But I think Bukayo Saka may get some minutes depending on if people get injured or something like that. So no, I don't think he should start. But if he did, I wouldn't complain. I think he'd still do a really good job. Stuart asks, Jess, who's the one player you would be happy to see leave this summer? I mean, Jack is already kind of going, and I think we need to improve upon him. I would like it if we made a decision on the center forwards. For me, I think if we could figure out and like kind of comb through the center forwards and make that a more clear situation, I think I'd be happy with that. So whether that's, moving on Lacazette, moving on Eddie, or even making a decision on Aubameyang, who I think that's unlikely, but even if that did happen, I'd be happy to see one of at least the center forwards that are on big money. I would be okay with seeing one of them go because I think having both of them has never really been that successful, and I think it's holding us back. So if I had to say, I wouldn't really say a specific player. I would just say if we could kind of organize the center forwards to make it make sense and move on one of the big earning center forwards, either Lacazette or Aubameyang, whichever one it is. I saw something. Don Giovanni asks, how do you feel about Julian Brandt's similar vision to Odegaard, but maybe a bit more dynamic? I love Julian Brandt. I love him. So many Arsenal fans don't rate him, and I just feel like when players don't have hype around them, we tend to think they're bad players, and they're not. Julian Brandt is better than the midfielders that we have now. He is. He's just a better player. He's a high-quality individual that I watched Dortmund play, and Lucien Favre he really spent a lot of time integrating Jude Bellingham in, integrating Gio in, and so he kind of got lost in the shuffle. Borussia Dortmund have so many midfielders. He just kind of got lost, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's not good. He had kind of an off season, and when they brought him back in towards the end of the season, he did pretty well. But he's 24 years old. You just don't become a bad player overnight. And I think environment, coaching, all those types of things come into play. And in a different environment, he would be a good player. And I think you could get him for 25 million or something like that if Marco Rosa is not interested in using him next season, or doesn't really feel like he's a big part of his plans. I know he said that he would be interested in a move to the Premier League. We know that it's difficult in the beginning when these players kind of come over. We've seen with Timo Werner and Havertz, they struggled. But towards the end, you could kind of see that they were getting their groove, at least Kai Havertz was. So I personally would bring in Julian Brandt. He can play off of the left-hand side as a left forward, a left central midfielder, a 10. He has so many different factors to his game. I think he would need to be a little bit more physical, but he's big enough to be in the Premier League. Like I think he's like 6 foot. He's a pretty big guy. Like not big, but like he's not small. And it's so amazing how snooty we are, but like literally this player is better than anybody that we have on our team right now. Like there's like he's way better than what we have. Like, so I would bring him in, especially because we're not interested in a wall now. I think he would be a good comp or somebody that could do similar things. And I like the player, good vision, all those types of things. So I would take him. I really would. George's opinion asks, who is your top right back option to buy? It's so difficult because, some positions you have a really strong, favorite. And then in other positions, because there's multiple players that can play there, it's kind of like, okay, well, one of these. So I kind of feel like one of, Selic or Majraoui, I would like for us to get rid of Baku, but we're not linked with him. So I'm kind of like, if I could choose anybody, I would choose Riddle Baku. But out of the people that we've actually been linked with, I liked Majraoui the best when I like watched him play. But somebody said earlier in the comments that he's injury prone, so maybe not him. So if I'm just pie in the sky, kind of like just dreaming, I would say Riddle Baku because he's literally Saka. He's literally Bukayo Saka, but plays on the right-hand side. He can play midfield. He can play right back. He can play right wing. He can play 10. He can play so many different positions. And in our Arteta system, it seems like it's important to be able to play multiple positions. So I like him. I like him a lot. S asks, who's your favorite out of 10, 11, Wilshere and current Saka? Who is your favorite 10 of 10, 11? And current Saka. I'm not sure I understand the question. Who is your favorite out of 10, 11, Wilshere and Saka? Okay, ask the question again, but like maybe rephrase it because I'm not getting the question and maybe it's just me. Let's see. Sorry. Yep, kids playing the Cowbell Cup. Yeah, but send your question back in. It means Wilshere in 2010. So who's better, Wilshere or current Saka? You guys know I love Jack Wilshere. Oh my gosh, this is so difficult. I love Saka, but Jack Wilshere. Don't get me. I hyped Jack Wilshere so much in those years. Like, I have that picture saved in my phone when he was like 16 and he was doing like kick-ups with I think it was like Danielson and Cesc and somebody else. And I was like, this kid, he should have been so much more. And what I can say, I know. But I think what we have to take note of is the fact that Jack had very serious injuries. And a lot of them came because he played so much at a young age. And Saka is on track to having Wilshere-like minutes in his legs. So I would hope that Saka has a more fruitful career than Wilshere. And Arteta played with Wilshere and talks about how devastating the way that his career is kind of unfolded. I mean, it's just the level of talent versus what was actually achieved is actually criminal. So hopefully Saka has a better career than Wilshere, and I think he can. But I love Jack Wilshere. I thought he was such a good player. I hyped that game against Barcelona. I thought he was the best player in the world. I was like, he's so good. And I like that he loved to fight. That's my type of player. I like that. I mean, he was small, but he couldn't get pushed around, and he had Rooney attitude, but like Xabi and Iniesta skills. Like you couldn't ask for more. And even Seth said that Out of all the players that he played with at Arsenal, and think about the amount of players that he played with, he said Jack Wilshere would have fit in, was the only one that would have fit in with that prime like Barcelona team. That's high praise. That's high praise. Let's see. Wilshere ruined his career with injuries. George's opinion says, reason I don't want Xhaka to play in the Euros. Yo-Yo says, Xhaka has had the misfortune of playing for Arteta. Let's see, what else are you guys saying? Aaron says, if Torreira, Guendouzi, and Xhaka all go, who will you get? Would you get 3 new midfielders? I mean, I would say you get Aziz, you bring in, like, see, here's the thing. I would want Basuma to come in, but let's just say, because we know, like we've been told several times that Basuma is not our number one choice, which is devastating. So let's just say you brought in Ruben Neves and Aziz, then you'd have to bring in somebody else as well. And then you could look at somebody like a Konga. I don't know if that's really like a reliable, but somebody like that, 15 to 20 million, that really fits the profile that we're looking for, that could fill in. I think that would be successful. You know, you buy one that's like your main starter, then you buy kind of like a rotational option, and then you bring in Aziz. That's 3 right there. George says, or George's opinion says, Wilshere was more Foden. Yeah, for me, like, because Foden wasn't like really around, I would say Foden is more Wilshere because Wilshere came first. But I love the kid's attitude. I like that he had a little bit of bite to him. I like that, you know, and he's still Arsenal like through and through. Like, I love that kid. Like, I thought he was so good. And like, he's like 30 now and he's not playing really. And it's just so sad. Aaron says not Willock. No, I think we should sell Willock, because if you sell Willock for, let's say, 20 million and you sell Guendouzi for like 10, 30 million gets you another midfielder that fits what you're trying to do. And I'm not convinced that if Willock stopped scoring goals, that we would want him in our midfield. You know, without the goals, what does he give you? And I think knowing Willock and seeing him play in an Arsenal shirt, he's not a prolific goal scorer at Arsenal because of the way that we play, and the way that Newcastle plays really suits him. So because I don't think his value will ever be higher than this, and I think this is the good time to sell. I mean, it just reeks of, if you keep him, we'll be regretting it by January. Let's sell, and sell Guendouzi as well. Take that 30 million and reinvest that into a midfielder that actually fits what we're doing, if that makes sense. Jamie Carragher says, do you think Balogun should be promoted to the first team? Chris Wheatley already announced it yesterday that he will be integrated into the first team and will have a chance to fight for his place. So I think they have plans for Balogun, which I think is really important. You give him the big contract, you need to find a place to use him and give him minutes. And I would love to see Balogun play some minutes next season. Colin says, where do you stand on KSC? I stand on they need to go, you know, but they're not going anywhere as far as I know. It doesn't feel, first of all, selling a club takes time. So even if they have it in their mind, it wouldn't happen tomorrow. And there would need to be constant pressure on them to do so. And I don't think the Arsenal fan base is prepared to do what's necessary to get them out. And I don't blame the fan base, because to get so many fans together to do the same thing and to kind of almost stop participating in Arsenal in a way is so difficult. Like, it's so difficult. So for me, they have to go in order for us to get where we want to be. But I think we could still, with the factors that we can control, we can get more success, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be really, really difficult. So I want them to sell, but I don't think they are, realistically, you know, especially if we're not prepared to do what's necessary. And based on the amount of people, including me, who bought the new shirt, you know, that I'm going to Florida, like, I'm not saying that I'm like, you know, I'm the same, where I want to enjoy my club. And unless all of us are going to get together and say, no, we're not going to buy these shirts, no, we're not going to go to games, which is never going to happen, then it is what it is, So the only thing that would get them to sell is if somebody came in with an over the odds kind of offer, and I don't really see that happening either. So we'll just have to hope, that somebody wants to pay more than what Arsenal is worth to get KSE out. Who had the worst home kit last season in the Prem? Oh, dear me. Let me think. There's two standing out of my mind already, but I don't want to say them just yet because I'm really thinking. I really don't like Brighton's because now they don't have it anymore because they took it away. But that collar on the Brighton, the blue, it was so ugly. I couldn't stand it. I was like, I couldn't wear that. And both of them had it. The blue one and the yellow one had that collar. Not cute. I actually didn't like the Southampton home uniform. I know a lot of people liked it with that sash across there. I didn't like that either. I would say those are the worst because those are the ones that really stand out because a lot of people's really just kind of stays the same. Nobody really goes out of their way. And then that third kit, sometimes they do things and it doesn't come off. But the home kit is usually pretty, standard. But the collar on the Brighton one and the sash across the Southampton one, I didn't like that at all. I didn't. We'll do one of those before the season starts, like when everybody gets their kits out or whatever. We'll rank them from 1 to 20. One thing we're good at is kits. Give you that. Even though I don't like Arsenal's new home kit, to be honest. It looks so much like Ajax that it's kind of annoying. I'm not feeling it. Oh, I think somebody's asking about Onana. I actually like the links. I think it's a smart move for long-term and short-term planning, and I would take him at Arsenal. Saying United, I mean, wasn't it just like the normal red, as usual? I mean, the zebra one was bad, but that's like their third kit or their away kit. I don't really know. Yeah, that Southampton one I didn't like. The sash, it was horrible. Maybe Everton's. Yeah. Yeah, that home one looks like Ajax. Yeah, for sure. All right, you guys. That's going to be it for today's show. I really enjoyed it. That was a lot of fun. And I actually didn't drink from my coffee because I didn't trust myself that I wouldn't make the same mistake as yesterday. So I'm going to put that in the microwave and drink it later. So I'll see you guys again at 10 p.m. UK time. We'll do the headline show. And again, it'll be a call-in show based on how many people show up. So if you show up and there's a lot of people, I'll make sure it's a call-in show so you guys can come in and talk. And we'll have the special question as usual at the very end of the show. And yeah, make sure that you like the video, subscribe to the channel, tell people to subscribe to the channel if you like it and you recommend it so we can get this channel up to 1,500 by the next week or so. And yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye, guys.